Hey, welcome to Rember. In this video, you learn how Rember works and how to make good use of it. First, let's create a remb. A remb is the base unit in Rember, just like photos are in Instagram. It's made of a note and some card. This is the note of this remb. It's the thing you want to remember. Cards are things you review over time to maintain and reinforce their memory. Let's add our first card. We're going to create a question and answer card. The question is going to be, what are the main parts of a remb? And the answer is going to be a note and some cards. And to help you remember in case you struggle, you can also add a hint which will not be shown by default. And here the hint could be two things. One is a set of things. Okay, let's create this remb and let's jump straight into the review flow. Here at the top, Rember is telling me you have one card to review, and below I see the card that I have to review. This is a question and answer card. Rember expects me to read the question, think about the answer, then reveal the answer and tell it whether I knew it or not. Because we added a hint, we can also reveal the hint before revealing the answer. In this case, let's pretend I'm struggling with the question. I can ask for a hint. Two things, one is a set of things. Oh yes, I now remember, it's a note and some cards. So I think I know the answer. I'm going to ask Rember to reveal it. I see that I correctly guessed. And now Rember is asking me, hey, did you know the answer or not? If I click again, it means I did not know the answer. Please ask me again later. If I say got it, it means I knew the answer. You figure out when you should ask me this question again. In this case, I got it, so I'm going to say got it. Okay, we're done with the review. Rember is telling me that we reviewed one card, we recorded one card, and it took us about 1 minute to do so. Let's continue. Now, I've been studying linear algebra recently, so I want to use Rember to try and create a more interesting remb. So I'm going to click create remb again. Now, this is going to be the note. It's a bit more meaty than the previous one. You can pause the video to read what it's about, but essentially it talks about some very basic idea of what linear algebra is and what it studies. Now, Rember is fully integrated with LLMs. So instead of manually creating cards, we can use this integration to generate the cards for us. I'm going to click generate card, which is going to use the note I added to generate the first card for me for free. In this case, it's a question and answer that asks what are the three properties of linear functions in linear algebra. I think this is a very pertinent question, but I want to add another question before that is about what does linear algebra studies. To do so, I'm going to highlight a segment of the note to tell Rember, hey, ask me a question. Use the entire note as the context, but try and ask me a question about this in particular. And I'm going to click generate card again. This time the question is, what are the main concepts that linear algebra focuses on? Vectors and linear functions. That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, we covered the first paragraph and the third paragraph. Now I want to also have a question about vectors and what they are. Instead of a question and answer, I think that because of the way the information is structured, we could use text occlusions. One way to do it is to manually click create cards and text occlusion and then add vectors and complete the sentence to use for the occlusions. But the faster way is to highlight a segment of the note and do the same. And now that segment becomes pre-filled in the text of the text occlusion. And now all I have to do is identify the parts that I want to occlude. And now two cards, as we will see, have been generated from this text. The last thing I want to do is reorder the cards so that they follow the same flow as the note above. And we're done. Let's create the remb. The remb is now here in the main view. There is also a tooltip that I can use to go to the remb profile itself. At the top, we have the note, and below we have the four cards that we created. Notice in particular that for the two text occlusions, there are two separate cards. The first one occludes the first of the two properties, and the second one occludes the second of the two properties. This is great, but I think we can improve this remb even more. Let's go back to edit mode up here in the top right. The first thing I want to do is to format this note so that when I come back to this remb, it's easier to see what it is about. The other thing I want to do is to use Rember's LaTeX equation integration to turn this equation into better formatted math equations. Okay, this is great. The last thing I want to do is add some cards that test me on the two properties of linear equations. The way I'm going to do it is manually. I'm going to select the first equation. I'm going to copy the equation as I just did. And down here, I'm going to create a question and answer. I'm going to ask, what does it mean for a function to preserve additivity? And the answer is the equation I just copied. I can also make it into a LaTeX equation. And I'm going to do the same for the second one. What does it mean for a function to preserve scalar multiplication. Okay, and here is the answer, and I am gonna turn that into a LaTeX equation as well. Okay, I'm really happy with this. So let's now go and review these cards. Okay, now Rember is telling me you have 6 more cards to review. Notice that the progress bar doesn't start from the beginning because because we already studied some cards earlier today. So this is the progress bar for the day. The card now is a text occlusion. It's asking me to fill up the blank here. The vectors are defined by a direction and the length. So here is direction. Let's reveal it. Yeah, I got it right. So I'm gonna say got it. What are the 3 properties of linear functions in linear algebra? Okay, before answering the question, I wanna make a tweak to the question itself. And this is a good way to show you something really cool about Rember. In other softwares that do spaced repetition, it can be difficult to go from your review flow to editing the cards. But it's actually quite helpful because often as you review your cards, you realize that they're either phrased incorrectly or there may be a misspelling, and you just want to fix them, tweak them on the go. Here you can do it very easily. You can click on the top right in the More menu, you can click Edit Remb, you can find the question, in this case it's this one, and here I simply want to remove in linear algebra because I don't think it's necessary to repeat that this is the context. This is perfectly clear on its own. Now, this card has been updated both for this review and for future reviews. Okay, now I'm going to think about the properties of linear functions. They preserve the origin. They keep straight line straight. The third one is something about grid lines. I think they keep them parallel. Let's see. Okay, I got this right. The third one, I got it partially right. I'm going to say I got it. Let's continue. What are the 2 main concepts that linear algebra focuses on? It's vectors and linear functions. Okay. What does it mean for a function to preserve additivity? F of x plus y is equal to f of x plus f of y. Okay, got it. And then this one, okay, interesting. This is the same occlusion that we saw before, just testing me on the other side. Instead of direction, it's asking me to remember this, which is length. You might think, wait, the flow just gave away the answer earlier. You would be right. Normally, Rember does not ask you to 2 or more occlusions from the same text occlusion on the same day. But at the very start, when you just study the card and you're studying it for the first time, Rember will show you all the occlusions just to make it easier and help you establish the memory. But over time, you will see them on separate days. Okay, so this is length. I got it. And then this is the last one, and it's f of x plus y is equal to f of x plus f of y. And, oh, sorry, this was the scalar multiplication. Okay, now I could say, again, because I answered incorrectly, but the truth is I know the answer, so I'm going to say got it. This is a good way to show you that sometimes you may get confused during a review. It's really up to you to decide whether you want to tell Rember, hey, I need help here or not. In this case, I knew the answer, so I'm going to say got it. Okay, we're all done. Rember is telling me that I reviewed 7 cards because this includes all the cards for the day, including the first one that we reviewed in a previous session, and I called all of them. As I reflect on my review, I realized that I didn't know all of the properties of linear functions. In particular, I didn't remember that grid lines have to stay equally spaced. So I can click on You're All Done to go back to the review flow. Rember supports full day review history. And I can go back to that question. Here it is. And here it's telling me, hey, you said you remembered it. I can click on this button to change the answer and to say, I didn't remember it. Let's ask me again. And now if I go back to the main screen, you see that it's telling me you review 7 cards, you recall 6 cards, you're done for now, but you'll have more cards to review before the end of the day. That's going to be the card that we just told it we didn't remember correctly. Rember tries to make sure that you review a card successfully before the end of the day, even if you make a mistake earlier in the day. Okay, this is really all you have to know in order to use Rember, but there are a couple of things I want to show you as well to help you make the best use of it. The first one is that as you add more rembs, you may choose to pause some of them. For example, from the menu here or from the menu here, you can click pause, and what this does is it's going to avoid adding those cards that belong to this remb to your reviews. This can be helpful if you're preparing for an exam or if you want to focus on a subset of your rembs. But obviously, if you stop studying the cards of a remb, you will eventually forget it. In this case, I want to remember this remb, so I'm going to keep it active. The last thing I want to show you is that as you add more rembs, you may want, and this is completely optional, to keep them organized, for example, in groups that are by topic or by classes, or in general, simply if you want to have the ability to review some cards together before you review other ones. You can do this with decks. You can create a deck from the sidebar, or again from the remb menu here. It's all the same. And here I'm going to create a deck for linear algebra. The deck now appears in the sidebar and it appears in the remb menu. So I can select it to say, hey, this remb belongs to linear algebra. So now if I go to the linear algebra deck, you see that my remb appears here. The other remb that we created at the start of this video is not here because I haven't added it. The other thing you can see is that in all rembs, it says I've reviewed 7 cards that are called 6, but in linear algebra, it says I've reviewed 6 cards that are called 5. This is because the stats are obviously filtered by the rembs that belong to these decks. Decks are completely optional, so you don't have to use them if you don't want to, but they can help you organize your rembs and focus your reviews. So it's up to you to decide whether to use them or not. Okay, that's really all you need to know in order to use Rember. We hope you really like it. If you want to get in touch with us, you can join our Discord or you can contact us via email. The links are in the sidebar. Happy learning and welcome to Rember.